Welcome to Opinion Havers, a movie podcast to honor the late, great Ray Liotta, Cody. I'm Tyler.
I'm Cody.
Cody, what did we watch?
You know, when you think of Ray Liotta, there's so many iconic roles to choose from, but there's one that truly stands alone. And that is his performance in The Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale.
I saw you have to think about that for a second.
Yeah, In the Name of the King, I'll tell you, there are so many other movies that start with In the Name of that are, like, good, including, like, a Daniel Day-Lewis. In the Name of the Father is like a Daniel Day-Lewis one. You know, there's a few. And I can confirm that, save perhaps only for the Doctor Who movie, this was the hardest movie to get a hold of.
Yeah.
That we've ever done.
Do you want to enlighten our listeners, our Ray Liotta fan base here, that how we managed to watch the film?
How much do we hate, really? Like, what is the message we're sending to this poor man, his legacy and his family?
Look,
this is the one we're doing, you know?
He picked this movie.
It could not have been more ill-timed. I can't.
I think it's
All right.
perfectly timed.
You want to know what this... All right. You ever seen Lord of the Rings? So this movie is a bootleg Lord of the Rings, but it stars Jason Statham. And that's all. It's a fantasy tale. It's a realm of kings. There's a farmer. There's some wars happening. There's some maguses, and there's a bad one. There's a good one. There's a king. And will good win the day? Will it not? Will our hero ever get a name? You're just gonna have to watch to find out.
Cody, that's perfect. That's exactly what the film is.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it better than I could have ever hoped to. What do you got? Any first impressions? Any spoiler-free first impressions of the film?
I am so confused about. Maybe it's my fault for watching the director's cut. Maybe there were so many times during this movie where I was like, well, this is hot garbage. And then there's a lot of other times where I was like, is it just me or is this not as bad as I think it is? I was so confused, so conflicted. I have to admit this is a bad movie. Like, it wasn't good. And I don't know. Did you watch the director's cut or the theatrical cut?
I did watch the director's cut because I was like, I don't want to end up, most director's cuts, right? It's like an extra 17, 24 minutes of like extended sequences, a few more lines of dialogue here and there. When I saw that we're talking about like an extra hour of movie, I was like, I can't.
It's like a full 40 minutes.
Not be prepared to discuss the whole movie, the whole vision of Uwe Boll, Uwe something.
Uwe.
It's Uwe.
I think you're right. I think that's
Uwe
it.
Boll. Uwe Boll. The visionary. Boll. B-O-L-L.
So,
the creator of
I didn't
such
like
things
it.
as Postal and In the Name of the King.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like this movie. But, it almost deceived me a few times. And I can't... We're going to have to dive into it to talk more about it. But how did you feel? I mean, look, this is on your list. This is how we got here.
Cody, I'll tell you right now, this is not necessarily... There's a lot of these movies where I will die on the hill that these are good movies. Biggest example of that is the Dracula Untold or like Priest, where I'm like, I love this movie. Yeah, sure, there's dumb moments, but this is a movie that is cool for the sake of being cool. Mm-hmm. This is a movie that I have seen more than once.
Ooh.
Outside of this podcast, Cody. And I just need to talk to someone about it because as a kid that grew up loving Lord of the Rings and like high fantasy stuff, right? There was fairly slim pickings, really. You had Lord of the Rings, and then if you're like, is there anything else? You were burned at the stake as a nerd. All right, that's what would happen to you. All right, so we got In the Name of the King, which is the epitome of let's copy Lord of the Rings. It's like, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but make it a little different so the teacher doesn't know. You know, that's what this is. Yeah. This is that to Lord of the Rings, except instead of Peter Jackson, you got Yui Bowl. Right?
Yeah.
So, Cody, do you have anything else that you want to say about the movie? Any other comments, notes, feelings, emotions?
No, I think we got to dive in head first so we can get right into it.
All right, Cody, hop on this mare. She's old, but she's strong, Cody. Get on the back of this mare here. We're going to ride on in. Oh, we've gone 15 feet. Cody, it's time to abandon these horses, all right? We're going to we're hoofing it from here, all right? We're kicking these horses to the curb. We're going to walk. Are you telling me, Cody, now we've walked an extra 15 feet? Get on this extra horse, Cody. Get on this horse, and we're riding into Spoiler Town, USA.
I'm here. I'm ready. Well,
Okay.
All right. Do you want to fight me? Who wants to go first?
That's what I was gonna say. Do you want to go first? I feel like you might. This is the kind of movie that I feel like you have multiple pages of notes, because I actually took notes, which usually means you took a lot.
I got quite a bit. Yeah, no, I mean, I can take it. If you want to get a timer ready, I can go first.
All right. Let me get this timer ready. Sorry, I punched my microphone. Didn't really punch it, more hit it, and my hand grabbed it instead of not grabbing it, which I feel like was the wrong move, right? Can we confirm that was the wrong thing to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Yeah.
But I still love you. I still support you.
All right, Cody. You have 5 minutes on the clock. Go.
So this movie's here. We watched it. My favorite part is that as it was going, I was like, this is kind of Lord of the Ringsy. And then as soon as it hopped over to like the farmer's farm and it was just knockoff Shire music, I was like, all right, this is too much. We've gone, this is an irresponsible amount of too similar. And you know what? That's okay. We're here and that's fine. You know, we are here. It's the Lord of the Rings knockoff, but like there's also like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon like kicks, you know, and like kicking off of people and wire work through the air. So there's that. There's also, you know, it's not Lord of the Rings, but hey, there are boomerangs, you know? So it's great. It's all those elements. They were like, this is too similar. How are we going to change it up? But they're like kicks and boomerangs. You're like, well, yeah, well, now it's not even the same thing. Not even the same genre, basically. And that's what I love about it. There's so much. It's one of those movies with so many like baffling lines and deliveries that you can't jot them all down. And that's what's so hard about watching this, because you just want to experience those over and over again. My favorite part is that there's like some crows and, you know, farmers here. Jason Statham, by the way, his character's name is Farmer, not the farmer. It's just Farmer. Why, you ask? Because he's a farmer and he was orphaned. And so he just went by, you know, whatever. It's fine. It's stupid. You know, you ever met a hippie who's like, well, you know, my birth name is John, but I just didn't feel like I should be part of the establishment, so my real name is Leafblade. And you're like, oh, do I have to call you Leafblade? It's like, yeah, no, you do. You have to. My name is Leafblade. Whatever. It's fine. Here's the thing. He's there with his son. Farmer loves son. Son loves farmer. They love each other, right? And he's like, I'm going to teach you, you know, working hard is the thing to do. I don't care about no politics. I'm a libertarian out here. People should just farm and do what they want. There are crows. And farmer's like, check this out. Boom. Throws a boomerang at the crows, scares him off. His son's like, oh, why do we do that? They eat the crops, right? He's like, no, they don't. So why'd you scare him off, dude? He later's like, they don't eat the crops. And I'm like, well, you threw a boomerang at them. You threw a boomerang and you said they don't eat the crops. I remember this. You didn't watch the right version. That's your problem. This lady, this farmer's wife, I forget her name. Celia, Maria, Molly, whatever. Her name is something. she is Bailey. She's right here. She's like, tell me why you love me. You know, she's here. She's like, tell me about romance. You know, she's like laying around doing whatever. You know what? It just reminded me so much of her. Let me tell you, I'm gonna spoil this for you. We're in spoiler channel. I'll spoil it. Bailey enjoyed this movie, and I asked her, I was like, what would you rate this movie? You know, and she was like, enjoyment wise, or like how good the movie was. I was like, well, let's do both. She was like, quality of movie, C minus. That's what she said. And then she was like, enjoyment, A minus. She's like, if you can just throw in some kind of a romance story into like a C minus movie, she's pretty happy. She was like, we got to watch the next one. I was like, please no. Jason Statham isn't in it, so I think we're gonna dodge the bullet on that. But we were there, so she was all in on it. Okay. The fact that Gimli is in this movie is absolutely mind-blowing. It is fantastic to hear Gimli just saying things in another fantasy movie is incredible. It is. I want more knockoff Lord of the Rings movie where it's like, okay, we've had Gimli as the dwarf and we've had Gimli as the wizard in the movie. We need Gimli as the king. We need Gimli as the peasant person. Like, I need Gimli as the villain. We need like 6 more of these. I want to see a movie with Gimli as the elf. I need all of that. I need it to happen. Gimli as the love interest. I need that too. It made me so happy whenever I was like, this is so cool. It was really delightful. The thing that strikes me about this movie, when you pull it up, when you start seeing the characters pop up, the actors, it's like, oh, this actor is better than this movie. Ray Liotta is better than this. Burt Reynolds is better than this movie. Jason Statham is better. Every actor in this movie is well above the grade of this movie, and I don't know how they convinced it. Because it's not even like a well-known director that had a flop. It was like, no, this dude has done nothing, and the budget wasn't big, and he got everyone on board for this, and I have no idea how. I mean, let's just go back to the kicks. We got flip kicks, heel kicks, standing kicks, jumping kicks. All this man does is kick, and is delightful. It's so great.
All right, Cody, I'm going to have to cut you off there in the middle of your rant. You know, sorry to stop you, you know. But here we are, you know. Got to shut it down so that I can rant. All right, are you ready? I don't think you're ready, but as soon as I pull up this thing, I'm doing it. Okay, here we go. Cody, here's the thing. I made one little note here to rebut your thing. Cody, normally I would tear into you. I'd be like, you silly, you didn't even listen. Most of Jason Statham's dialogue can be boiled down to screw the king. You know, like that's mostly what he says. So I get it, all right? So there were many times where I was like, what did he say? And I would go back and then I eventually gave up. I was like, we're not doing it. It doesn't matter. That's what I finally said to myself. I said, what did he say? And then I said to myself out loud, it doesn't matter. Move on. But at that beginning, when he's like, threw it at the thing, what the boy was saying, which came out as, that's about how audible it was. And then Jason Statham said, eat the crops. Right? So I get where you're coming from. But what the boy said was, why didn't you kill him? And he said, I just wanted to scare them so they don't eat the crops. That was the goal, right? So that's what I'm coming at you with, all right? Everything else he said, totally valid, except for the fact that you said these people are above this movie. I will argue, after at first thinking the same thing, I don't think they are. I think Ray Liotta's a bad actor. After seeing him as a wizard, it's like if all you could play is a 70s mob guy, right? Isn't that what he is in Goodfellas? If that's all you could do, then are you a good actor or are you just a 70s mob guy? You know what I'm saying? Because like his smile, Cody, give me a Ray Liotta smile for me. This man, did they put just a piece of paper over his teeth or something? Because it was just a white. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Why were some of the effects in the beginning 5 frames per second? All right, the smoke effects when that thing is transforming, like the fancy, hold place that he turns into his Isengard, right? Why is the smoke billowing at 5 frames a second? Why is it a video game texture? Is it because, oh, guess what? Here's the key difference. All right, we gave Peter Jackson, a man who, Cody, I was going to look, I'll get into it later. Maybe he did stuff before, maybe he didn't. We don't know. It's an unknowable thing. Uwe Boll was the next Peter Jackson, Cody. This is a franchise. They came to them and they said, look, this is on par with Lord of the Rings, meaning they looked these people in the eye and they lied to them. We had a middle ground video game that only became good on the final install. All right, the final installment of it is the only decent one, and it's a 7 out of 10 at best. All right, that's what we're dealing with here, and it's by a different developer where the guy that made the game just consulted, and they definitely ignored him 90% of the time. All right, but here's the thing: it goes deeper than that, Cody. The guy that made these video games that this movie is based on, from the first one, put on the box a video game from Chris Taylor. He had not made any video games before. All right. So it's like, he's like, I'm going to be the next Sid Meier or whatever. The guy that made like Pirates and Civilization, where you put, it's like Tom Clancy, right? But it's like if Tom Clancy would be like, the first book he published be like Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. And it's like, everybody be like, I don't know who Tom Clancy is. But now you put Tom Clancy on there. It means something, Cody. Is it Seth or Seth? That's what I put. It's neither. It's Zeph. All right. Zeph. That's the young boy's name. Spoilers: the young boy gets killed, and there's very little influence on the story. All right. It's sad. Dad does not seem to care in the slightest. He's mostly concerned with the fact that his wife got kidnapped, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, my son got killed," in like the final speech, and then they know it is not. He might as well not have existed because Ray Liotta can smell her womb. All right, that's what he can do. He can smell the boy within her womb. All right, so Ray Liotta's a freak. All right, that's the thing. You're talking about, are we disrespecting him? This movie brought out the real Ray Liotta. All right, he was not great when he said. Some people bring him some prisoners, and this man, as a wizard, he is an evil wizard in Lord of the Rings-esque time frames, right? Turns to his goblin minions and says, "Began! Began! Get it! Began!" All right? Cody, they were turnips. They grew turnips. That's what he farmed, all right? Nobody farms turnips. What is this? Animal Crossing? These were huge turnips, all right? And he's trading. Ron Perlman shows up, by the way. Ron Perlman's in this movie, Cody. He's got a pig, all right? And he's going to trade his pig for the corn. Where's the corn, Cody? All I see is turnips, all right? Cody, I wrote down a note that says he's the first farmer. That's why he's called Farmer. Nope. His parents died before they gave him a name. He was found when he was 3.
Oh, Tyler, I'm going to have to cut you off right there.
Cody, he was 3 when he was found. Yeah. His parents died before they gave him a name. He was 3 years old. Cody, when you have your child, I don't want you to give them a name until they turn 4. I want you to just call him boy.
Any child should be able to pick their name, so you got to teach them English, and, you go from there.
Cody, I don't want to necessarily continue my rant, but I want to just jump into one point here. Why are you going to put Ron Perlman and Jason Statham, 2 people who have shown in more recent films that they are very good with fighting choreography? 2 of what some might say the best outside of like kung fu films at the fighting choreography and making it look awesome. Why are you going to put those 2 guys up against what you can only assume are professional stuntmen and then cut around it like you're Liam Neeson getting over a fence? All right. What is this? All right. Answer me that question.
Yeah. The fighting, there were so many times during the fighting where I'm like, I don't even need to see this, With the exception of a few of the kicks, I was like, all right, well, I'm kind of, the kicks are so absurd that I'm enjoying them. Like, I'm glad anytime a kick and then there was halfway point in the movie where he kind of stopped kicking for a while, and I was like, you know what? The movie isn't that good. And then a kick came in, and I was like, all right, never mind, I'm back in. You reeled me back in. You deprived me but you're right. I mean, I don't know. The fighting, so much it was like, I can tell you guys spent a lot of time making these fights happen. But they just were, they were there, and it's fine. They had I think a decently well-known stunt choreographer do the fights, but there was one fight that Uwe Ball did the choreography for. It's in the beginning, the barn fight when the barn's on fire, and Ron, that one.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Like here, I'm trying to find a very specific video that I want to send to you. All right, and I want you to view it, and then I want to discuss it. How do you? It's gonna give it away if I ask you. Oh my gosh, I always forget how. Gosh, these people are friggin' nerds, Cody. You know what I'm saying? As a nerd, I want to give them all wedgies. All right, that's all I'm saying. Is that fair?
You know what? You know what my favorite part about this movie is? When it starts like, oh, Lord of the Rings time, which, you know, usually when it's fantasy, you go for a British vibe, you know, something like that
Let's put
for
Ray
the
Liotta
accent.
in it.
And in this one, well, it's funny because at one point I was like, why is Ray Liotta American? And then like the next scene, I was like, nope, it's 50-50 on the accent. Because like Burt Reynolds, I don't think is British. And then I think the brother isn't British. The wife's brother isn't British. But then obviously Jason Statham is. I don't think Ron Perlman. So it's very like mixed on who. But Ray Liotta is the most obviously like, okay, you're from. I don't know where he's from, but like, is it bot? Because he's got like a very nasal American voice, you know. So like you say when he's like began, you're like, wait, hold on, are you from Boston? Are you from Boston within this land? And it's awesome. No, it's fantastic. Where's the one? He's like, I don't need any prisoners. All right, get out of here. Like, what? You just? I'm confused. Come back here. Where are you going? Like, what? You just? I don't know. It was awesome. It was amazing. His smile was off. Let's talk about this. The movie starts with Ray Liotta in bed with the other Magus' daughter.
Yeah.
And they're like making out. And there's a few scenes of this. I'm like, why, woman? Why are you here? Macking on Ray Liotta. It doesn't. Nothing about this makes any sense in any world. You know what I'm saying?
But Ray Liotta,
and I get it. He bends emotions with whatever her dad says, whatever Gimli says. But
Yeah.
man, it didn't make any sense. And as he's sucking the power from her, he like kind of hints that he's doing that, but then I feel like it's never fully
their bloodline, Cody. How do you not understand?
How about when they fall from the bridge? They're trying to swing across the big gorge, ravine, whatever, and then they're drowning. It's Ron Perlman and the brother-in-law are drowning, and Jason Statham rescues them from the 2 feet of water. He's like dragging. Remember this?
Yeah.
He's got a rope and he's dragging Ron Perlman out of the water, but you can tell that it's like barely covering Ron Perlman, like laying flat. I'm like, dude, you got to stand up. We all know you're not drowning because I can see the bottom of the water. You got to stand up. It was amazing. It made me really happy.
And did you not think that like when they got to the edge and like the look, so Jason Statham gives them a look and they look up at him like they were going to make a joke out of it. Like, oh, you guys could have just stood up and walked out. But then they're like, nah, saved you. You could have died and moved on. This movie, based on a video game, the story is the epitome of if you know, like when you go on YouTube and just watch all the cutscenes, but you lose all the dialogue and all the context from the playable sections. So it's like you go from like, all right, go on this quest. And then the next cutscene is, all right, you're back from this 30-year quest.
Yeah. Well,
like,
I think I've got another analogy for it, and I think it's more apt for the beginning of the movie. It is 100% just a D&D campaign. It is a Dungeons and Dragons campaign to the T, because like it's like, oh, we're improvising dialogue, and you know, the dungeon master's like, all right, I'll connect this to the story. We'll get you off on your quest, and that's exactly what I felt like. I was like, oh, I figured it out. It's a Dungeons and Dragons movie.
I wouldn't say, okay, I was gonna say it's a bad D&D game. It's not a bad D&D game. It's a D&D game between the DM has never DM'd before, and the players have never played before.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Because it's like a person very ham-handedly, which I've been guilty of this as someone who has not done it for a long time, really fisted, be like, yup, these things link together for no reason. And then like you got your brooding person. Like, so the whole movie, Jason Statham's attitude is, screw the king. The king can go F himself. And then it's like, you're the king's son. And he's like, no, I'm not. Next scene, all right, I'm the king now. I accept this. And it's like, the very last scene, you were like, under no circumstances will I accept that I am the king's long-lost son. And then the king like, I don't accept it either. Next thing, king's dying. He's like, I said this to my son, and he's like, now I have to be the king. Everything changes because you knew the rhyme that my dad yelled me. That I didn't. Okay, how do you remember the rhyme your dad tells you? You don't remember that you're the prince. All right, you're just like, I was 3. My family never gave me a name. Also, you were rescued by the guy who tends your mom's horses, who definitely knows who you are. So Ron Perlman just kidnapped the prince, right?
Ron Perlman is the true villain of this.
Like, okay,
of this movie.
Let me ask you this: as someone who this was your maiden voyage, so you didn't know. Having seen this movie at least twice before, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't remember. I didn't remember either. Did you think Ron Perlman was going to be like a former magic guy?
Oh,
or something?
No.
When he's like, we've met before. Like, I know you. When he was like trying to hide his face from the magus.
Oh yeah, what was that?
So Ron Perlman used to tend the horses, Cody.
So
that was the thing.
What did he do to those horses that made him no longer allowed to tend the horses?
Well,
I guess he just kidnapped the kid.
And the wife got killed, right? During the thing that made the boy an orphan, right? That when his parents were killed before they were able to give him a name. You know? That's the equivalent of having like your backstory, like you said in a D&D game, be like, I never knew my mother died before I was born. You know, like that's your backstory. That's his backstory. That's Farmer's backstory, and then it's the DM being like, "Psych nerd, you're the long lost prince. Suck it." And then the player being like, "I never wanted to be the prince." It's like, oh my gosh, Terrence, just
what
freaking suck it up, man.
Every time they said farmer, I was like, this isn't working, right? Like, it sounds bad.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, I'll tell you this. Everything this movie does, right, it's not bad. It's not doing the wrong thing. It's just doing it badly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the idea of calling him Farmer is the same as, like, Christopher Nolan calling the main character in Tenet the protagonist, and him referring to himself as the protagonist. But he's like, no, it's cool because he's like a spy, and that's how a spy would refer to the main person, like pushing this mission forward or something. So that's why they call him the protagonist. That's why his name is the protagonist. Not like they call me the protagonist because my mother died before I was conceived. You know, and it's like,
yeah,
like that's it's just weird, right? But like you can definitely see, right? There's some shots. Tiffany even said, "Oh, that's a cool shot," and then just gave me like a look, like, because I had just said like they're just copying. I said this is Dime Store, Lord of the Rings, and then the next shot was like the party walking across the mountain. That's obviously not in New Zealand.
I remember that
it's exactly
shot.
The same, and it's like, are you guys like in the Badlands of like South Dakota or something? Where are you?
Oh man, Magus,
Magi, Magus.
I'm the king's Magus. Gosh, I don't remember which one it was now.
They switched.
Okay, let's talk about my other favorite part of the movie. Cirque du Soleil elves.
Yeah,
amazing. They slink on down on mines. And they do like the Vine intro both times that you meet the elves, like different characters meet the elves. It's like, oh, we're doing it. Look, they're twirling down. We did it. They're going.
Would you say that they're elves though? Like really?
Oh, I just assumed that because it was like the shot for shot, like Galadriel's entering Galadriel's forest, where it's like, these woods are creepy. Nothing good happens in these woods. Am I right? And then the elves pop up. So I mean, I don't know. There's leaves. You're telling me they're not? Yeah, they're not elves. They're not people. They're elves. Obviously, because they're like, we don't get involved in your stuff. They only get involved because they know it's going to spill over. You're telling me a person's choosing to swing among the vines? No. You're telling me those are just hippies? Those are just granola folk?
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%.
I don't believe it. 1 second. They have control over vines.
Yeah. Do you not? Is that what you're saying?
They're vine folk.
Yeah.
just imagine you're walking through the woods and someone slides down. It's not even like they're sitting on a vine. It's like, no, they're fully like reclined, foot in the air, vining. And they're like, hey, man, better get out of my turf. I was like, how do you have a conversation with someone floating above you hanging from a vine? How did they do it?
I mean, Cody, they found a way. All right. Can I tell you something that's blowing my mind right now?
Yeah.
The barn fight is not in the theatrical. I clicked into this video just to like quickly scrub through to get to the barn fight, and I'm seeing him doing his like little thing where I hate that he was like super attentive enough to know there was stuff in the woods around him. Oh wait, no, psych, found the barn fight. All right, and then and then he just immediately gets snuck up on like it's nothing. Like, they killed him with that first hit, but then he's like, no, I'm the hero. Also, can we get Ron Perlman something deadlier than like a hoe to work with here?
Nope. I don't think so. I think that's the one. And it's like a big, chunky thing he's swinging around.
It does look like it could be a pickaxe, but it's I swear it's a hoe with a spike, Like, it's like a real farm hoe, not like a real pickaxe kind of thing, So here's what I'm going to send you. Okay, I just need to send you 2 videos. I've sent you 1 video. I'm going to send you another one here. All right, here's what I'm doing. I'm copy at the current time. Okay? I just need you to review them. Just a short little review sesh.
Watch it.
All right. So there's one. So if you can just watch...
Yep.
The top one for me,
Yeah, I remember this.
All right, just for the listeners out there, what I'm doing is I'm making Cody watch the fight scene between I can't remember his name, the leader of the Uruk-hai, and Aragorn. Lurtz. Yeah, there you go. Lurtz, a comically large stuntman, and Viggo Mortensen. And Viggo Mortensen is getting his stuff kicked in, all right? You know what I'm saying? Like, he is losing this fight, right? Blocks the knife like a freaking Jedi, right? And it's like, this is really just them doing the same, like, swing, chink, chink, tink, 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 move over and over, right? But you watch that, all right? And then if you just click down to the next thing, the next video below that, you will be treated to, that's right, the barn fight scene, where there's a lot more moving, but tell me if one does not feel like a more epic one than the other one,
Yeah. Gosh.
And we've seen Jason Statham have like a really good looking intense fights. We've seen multiple movies where his fights are like the only reason to watch those movies. And this one always felt like it's like, this is the part that I don't care about.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you kicking them? You have a sword.
Well, my question is, I could see him being like, well, he's strong because he farms. So he's a decent fighter. But this man is a kick artist. He has dedicated a lot of time to learning how to kick stuff,
He does the
That's what I don't get about it.
Which we all know was patented by Ewan McGregor, right? Isn't he the one that you like the double kick from?
Oh yeah, because he does it in Star Wars.
Yeah,
when he plays Obi-Wan. Let me tell you, I gotta pivot here a little bit.
Oh, pivot. All right.
We got Ray Liotta, who, I guess once you know that Jason Statham is the king, I guess it makes sense that like Ray Liotta has some sort of curiosity about Farmer. But before you know that, you're like, why did Ray Liotta care a bit about this farmer? And like, he's like communicating with him a few different times when he's like, because Ray Liotta controls is it Kurgs? The Korgs? Kugs? Krugs. Thank you.
Krugs.
And he's literally like, at one point, he looks at Jason Statham through a Krug's eyes and is like, oh, I can't read you. I was like, oh, so it's like an Edward Bella situation where it's like, well, I can't read your mind, so I'm interested. You have my attention. And that made me really happy. It made me immensely happy that was the connection. He's like, oh, what's your deal? What's going on with you?
Can I here? I have a point that goes along with that one, right? If I could just interject for a second here, right? One of the things I liked about his character, because like I'll say, I don't think they didn't like everything they did. This movie is one of the most that we've watched, where it's like talk about one of the big. This could have, had you given this to someone who actually knew what they were doing, this very well could have been like the. Like just like a tiny step down from Lord of the Rings. Like you could have made it like these movies outshine the source material kind of thing, right? But you didn't get someone who knew what they're doing. Because I liked things that like Ray Liotta would do, right? Where he was like, you know, like, why can't I figure this out? Like, well, who are you? Why can't I read your mind? Whatever. It's not worth it. You're obviously a threat. I'm just gonna kill you. Which is one of those things where it's like, that makes for a sinister bad guy. Where he's like, I'm not going to sit here and give you a speech. I'm not going to waste all this time and effort figuring this out. I'm just going to kill you. And then he almost kills him. Which I'm like, this could have been great. Problem is you had Ray Liotta, what sounds like, record it on his phone, standing in the other room. You know?
Well, it's also just like, it's almost like they just like threw the line at him, and then he gave delivery, and the director was like, okay. The director never like sat him down and be like, okay, well, no, here's what I want the character to sound like, or here's your motivation. It's kind of just like, out of context, here's a line, just say it, and we'll move on. That's what a lot of his lines felt like.
Yeah, like,
can we?
Go on. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Can we talk about? We haven't talked about Matthew Lillard yet, who's very much I feel the wild card, because like. He's not an actor you think about much because he's well known for being Shaggy, and he has one or two other roles like in kind of not indie pictures, but like a little less well-known movies, But people respect him as an actor, but he's very much one of the, he's a kind of a character actor guy. Anyway, he's in here, and it's always weird to see him. It's weird to see him and stuff because he's Shaggy, He is Shaggy. So to see him with like the buzz down hair, the period appropriate buzz down buzz cut, and to see him is weird, but here's what I like about him. You're out there, you want to hold down the fort for your uncle dad, then you do a bad job at it because you're just a wine guy. You just hang out, whatever. He just wants to get his rocks off, drink his wine, and enjoy being a rich guy, right? Yeah. So your uncle dad gets mad at you for not taking care of the fort, so you go off to battle. For the bad guys to betray your uncle father. And look, you're out on the road. You got your big fancy tent because you're the king's nephew. Perhaps you desire a woman, What are you going to do? Two things. Number one,
but wait,
you don't
Cody,
settle
let me
for
ask
one,
you something.
all right?
Do you want a big
What?
woman or a little woman? All right.
Well, that's where the respect comes in because he got both, all right? This man is out here and bam, he got them both. Shout out, because, it takes a big man to be like, no, I want both, and neither of them should be attractive. You know what I'm saying? Like, That's what I respect about Matthew Lillard. Number one, that. Number two, he got the red tights on. It is shocking to see a man. I saw the red tights. I was like, oh, one of those girls wearing. Nope, no, Matthew Lillard's got the red tights on. The whole scene is magnificent. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Did you notice the size of his tent? We're all rolled up, and he's in the middle of a military encampment.
And he's like, "Hey, give me some privacy here." It's like, dude, your door's open, and we can all hear you and see you. But
it's like everybody can see.
That's where you need just a wall of Krug, to like form a privacy gate,
I'd say he's the one that really just killed that character. He nailed it, right? Like he's the only one that like they were like, all right, here's your character, and he's like, got it, and he knocked it out of the park. Everyone else, I was like, this was terrible casting, but he nailed it, right? Are you
yeah,
right?
I mean, and the thing is, I think most of these actors gave their best shot with the source material. Ray Liotta fell the most flat. Like Jason Statham, whatever, it was fine. And I didn't even mind Ron Perlman. Gimli's good enough. And Burt Reynolds didn't have to talk that much, and it was fine. Like, it was weird, but it was, I think everyone did what they could.
No, Matt. I'll give Burt Reynolds Burt Reynolds. I'll say Burt Reynolds swung for the fences, but it's Burt
I
Reynolds.
saw I saw a note where he was like, "Look, none of my characters have ever died on screen, so I really want this one to count." And he was like changing lines, and the director was like, "Please stop, just read the line." It was like a whole thing, but I was like, "This is the hill you're gonna die on." Like, that's my thing. What did these actors think this movie was? Like, did they think they were in the next Lord of the Rings? Because
so,
they
Cody.
were giving it their all. But it was
Yeah.
clear to me looking at it that I'm like, this isn't. There's no lighting happening. There's no. They're just running with what they got, you know? And the effects are probably the biggest sin of all is just like, there was obviously no planning for the effects. They obviously shot the movie, sent it to someone, and were like, do the effects for us. And I also read some trivia that the director had like some big riffs with the effects studio because he was like, you guys are outsourcing our effects to a cheaper studio and we're paying you for that. And I was like, hold on, this is a hot mess.
Yeah, like I mean, you look at the cast, right? And then you look at how much money was poured into it at that time, right? I think they thought, oh my gosh, like we're gonna strike perfect, like, which, sure, you're striking 4 years after Lord of the Rings, so you're not really hitting when the iron's hot there, but you could argue that you're hitting right when people are getting desperate for another high fantasy film, right? And so you can really position yourself as the bridge between like Lord of the Rings and maybe one day getting like, like a really good Peter Jackson Hobbit movie, which they, one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they thought. Little did they know. Because I mean, like these are people who are bigger names than they got for Lord of the Rings, right? Like, Lord of the Rings had a few big names in it, but it was like...
There were a lot of unknowns and new actors, like Orlando Bloom and Elijah Wood, and I think they had Ian McKellen, and their wizards were, like, top-tier talent.
Well, that was the thing, is like...
but Merry and Pippin are kind of unknowns, too. Like, you had a lot of...
Who's the guy that played
people
Sauron?
In that cast? Christopher Lee.
Like... Big reason he's in it. He's a huge name actor, but he's also was personal friends with Tolkien. You know,
right.
So it's like, of course, he was gonna wrestle his way in there no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so, like, the biggest name probably was like Ian McKellen or Christopher Lee, right?
Yeah.
Like John Rhys Davies is like, he's also in this movie. You know, so I mean, he's that level of actor. But I mean, like, Jason.
He's
Statham,
a beloved character actor, though. He just, he's Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he's always better than the stuff he's in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
he's one of those guys.
He pops. He's got that voice that just pops. We're like, this is delightful to hear you speak.
But like, this would, you got like Ron Perlman and Jason Statham, Burt Reynolds, Ray Liotta. We're talking top tier. We're talking like award-winning actors, right? Not all of them are good awards, but like all of them are people that you say, oh, all these people are in it, and you know. So it's like, oh, we want to make it, but we want like the main guy to be better at fighting than like Viggo Mortensen was, So, okay, we'll get Jason Statham. He could be like a generic white guy hero character, right? Which all the time we said he couldn't, but then like he can. Like, again, we've seen that he is a good actor.
Right. I mean, he's one of those guys where it's like he's not going to break any barriers or like, but he has this mold where it's like, hey, if you fit him in this tough guy role, like grumbly tough guy, he'll do great. He'll nail it.
I take offense to that. Snatch, he was not a grumbly tough guy. He wasn't the tough guy in Snatch, Cody. He was just the guy that needed someone to box for him. All right, he was a fight promoter. He wasn't a tough guy. He was just kind of like, a snarky British guy. Like,
right.
That's what he was. You know who was the tough guy? The tough pikey, as they call it, which might be offensive. I don't know how offensive, though. Brad Pitt. All right, why isn't Brad Pitt in this movie? Here's what I really want to know. While you make your next point, Cody, I got to look up a factoid here.
What's sad about my next fact is that I can't remember the context. Fun fact, I had to watch this movie in 3 installments because of time constraints. Okay, so I watched it an hour at a time. And, I don't know. I don't know what that did for me. There's a helmet situation, a hair helmet that happens and I can't remember the context. And I hope that you do.
I think I know
Do you have it?
exactly the point that you're talking about.
What is it?
So there is a point when Matthew Lillard enters a frame, and behind him is his little stooge with the haircut, right?
Yes.
And that's I
Yeah.
bet what you're
Yeah,
referring to, because I
that's
thought
it.
the same
Thank
thing. I was
you.
like, that is very much out of place.
When
in
you
this world.
contrast that, a Middle Ages page boy haircut, you're like, well, that's a thing. But when you compare it against the buzz cut, Matthew Lillard buzz cut, which he has in one of his more famous roles, it's like, wait, hold on. It really sticks out. Okay. My next point, they do, it's a Lord of the Rings knockoff, so you got to have some catapult action. But in this one, they're like, we're going to do you one better. All right? We got catapults that shoot people, and we got slingshots that shoot people. They're slingshotting Krugs and catapulting Krugs into the battle. At one point, they did a flaming boulder. You're like, okay, fair enough. Get some fire going, disorient the enemy. Then they shoot a flaming Krug. And I was like, stop. Hold on. How is lighting someone on fire and shooting him into a crowd better than a bolt? Wouldn't you rather have someone who's not going to die from being on fire? It was amazing. It made me so happy. The disposability of the Krug was impressive, because I don't fully understand what they were. Because in the beginning, they're like, these beasts, they're unholy, or, they're unnatural. So were they wild dogs they turned into fighting soldiers, or was it just they came out of nothing? Right? I don't understand what the Krug came from.
So the Krug, I think, I've never played the games, but from the context of the movie, I feel like the Krug are it'd be like if the orcs weren't a threat because they're not organized enough and they're not really aggressive. They're just kind of like these humanoid things out in the woods. You know what I'm saying? And then, so that's kind of what they're supposed to be, I think, is they're just something that's in the woods. It's not really something that you would have them invade. They're it'd be like, the dolphins are attacking, Cody. And you'd be like, dolphins aren't attacking. And then a dolphin kicked down your door and killed your
with
family.
a helmet and a staff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I was just confused too, because Ray Liotta was like, I got 1 billion of these Krug. I'll just summon more. And you're like, wait, so summoning, that's what I was confused about. I was like, wait, so is it like a necromancer thing, or is it did he create them, or is there's a ton of them, and because he tamed them? But it was also very much, he was just controlling the whole army. So it was weird. It was weird in that way too, because it's just like, oh, okay, they're just sort of like a mindless hive controlled by Ray Liotta.
Mm-hmm.
I was confused about that the whole time too, because Ray Liotta is in the castle scheming with Matthew Lillard, but he's only in the basement of the castle because he can't be in the castle. But then he's also in his little fort thing, which is, I guess, the Magus' fort, but there's only 2 maguses. Man, where was Ray Liotta this whole movie? I know that in the end he was in the tower thing, because that's where they fight him. But I don't understand where he was the rest of the movie.
Okay.
But he does go into her room to make out with the Magus' daughter.
Yeah.
Man, where did he exist in space and time?
I mean, as we saw, they can move around as dust. They just have to disassemble their whole body, and then they flitter through
I was
the
confused
wall.
about that too, because at some point I was like, oh, so he's kind of teleported there, but it's just like a projection of him. But then Gimli does die.
Yeah.
So, man, this.
So they do move. I thought it kind of looked cool. It was a different way to do the magic teleport, right?
Sure, I didn't mind it.
So that's the thing, is some of the effects looked kind of cool. Them teleporting looked pretty cool, but then you'd get the boomerang, which you're like, well, this looks like it came out in 2000 and this movie's from 2007. So it's a little weird that looks worse.
Even the boomerang tracking shot where he throws the boomerang and then you follow the boomerang as it goes. And
did you there's a scene where he throws the boomerang and then it goes through a dozen guys and then embeds itself in a tree. And it's how much weight is behind this boomerang? Anyway.
I just love the idea of a boomerang hitting something but still returning, because it did that once or twice. We're like, hold up.
So Tiffany asked when they got to the Magus Guild hall, whatever, fortress, right? And it's all that, and I was like, this thing was fine 2 hours ago, right? What? How? And she's like, how long has it really been though? In the story? And I was like, Tiffany, 30 years, 2 minutes. I have no idea. There is no concept of how long this movie takes place over. From the beginning of him starting to steal their family's bloodline power, which, okay, if you're gonna be all right, he tapped into our bloodline's power, and then be how did I not know that my daughter had magic? It's like, dude, you just established like yesterday that it's a inherited feature. Guess what, dude? She's your daughter. If you have magic and it's inherited by blood, she has magic. That Cody, right? Cody, can I ask?
No, you're
what
wrong
color
because
your parents'
look, you're
hair
wrong
is?
because she's a woman, and so she's not allowed to do anything.
But Cody, what color is your dad's hair?
Brown,
What color is your mom's hair?
blonde, strawberry blonde. I guess.
Cody, I am shocked that you have blondish brown hair. How could I have foreseen this, Cody? How, Cody?
I don't know. You know, my parents, they died before I could be named, so
How would
I was
we know?
3 years old. My parents died or abandoned me, or I was kidnapped.
Did you like
Just
his
call me
wife's,
Farmer.
his wife's thing? Well, they used to call him. Her explanation
Used to
is, which by the way, the son is asking when he's like, what, 9? Why is dad called a farmer?
There's
And
so
then
much
her mom is
exposition
like-
between.
Mom is like, oh, well, your father believes that you are what you do or something, so he's farmer. It's like, what was he before?
farmer.
Boy.
Boy, farmer boy. He was a farmer boy.
And then he's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, yeah, he grew up alone, so he had to learn to defend himself. And, you know, it's the kind of thing where it'd be like, you know, I just imagine the boy turning to the mom being like, I mean, I didn't ask for more clarification. I was fine. I was fine with what you said, but you've added
Nope,
more
you gotta
details on.
explain everything, and then 30 minutes into the movie, be like, we've done enough explaining. Things are just gonna happen now.
Yeah, this movie does do way too much like assumption of, oh, everyone's played these games. They all know. And then it's like, your games are only on actually, I was going to say they're only on PC. No, they release on everything. They just didn't sell very well. And it's like, that'd be like, Cody, that'd be like them making a Demon Souls game and be like, everybody knows the lore of Demon Souls. We don't need to explain anything. And it's like, nope, even the fans of this thing don't understand.
Yeah, most of the people who play those games don't even know the lore. They just know, they get to die a lot. So, okay, let's talk about some more action scenes. How about the horse punch? There's at one point where Jason Statham's about to fall to a guy on a horse, and I'm pretty sure he just punches the horse and knocks the horse over. Maybe it was a kick, but I'm pretty sure it was a punch. Like, he's like, how am I going to add this pickle? Definitely a horse punch. I was like, I respect it.
Is that is that
all about
before or
it.
after he grapples the horse to try to get the guy off the horse?
Maybe that's the same thing. I think that, I think
Because
that
he was
that
punching
one.
like the guy's gut, but then you're right, he did punch, and then the horse fell over. So maybe he killed the horse with a punch.
That's the scene where the king gets shot with an arrow. So
Yeah.
he's on his deathbed, just wearing a black T-shirt with a bunch of gauze wrappings. It made me so happy. I was like, that is like a modern cotton blend black tea. It was so great.
Such a dumpster fire of a movie. Cody.
Well, what's crazy is I think they spent like $10K on the king's like armor set. Like they went super hard on some of the armor for the kings and stuff, but then they just happened to black tea. Pretty rad. Pretty strong move.
I mean, like, this movie, like, I'll tell you, the costumes look great. A lot of the effects look pretty good for, like, like when you think of the caliber of movie it is, right?
Well, I thought every time there was a big battle scene, I was like, gosh, how did they pull this off for that budget? Because there were so many people in those battle scenes.
Did it not come
And it wasn't
across-
like Lord of the Rings where it's like, well, yeah, those are all, they use computers and AI to like fill those out. It's like, no, these are mid shots. Those are all dudes in armor fighting Krug.
Yeah, and it's like all the Krug are dudes in like full makeup Krug
Right.
outfits, and they've all got like different weapons and stuff. Like, they went all out, and like the soldiers all have like good looking matching armor, so you're right. It is very much a
Like, this movie could have been, Peter Jackson does all kinds of movies, but this very well could have been like, oh, this was Peter Jackson's first movie out of film school, and it was the thing that led to him doing Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh, this has potential, and I see what he was going for, but instead, it is the thing that happened after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it is kind of sad because like you kind of want to be. Sorry, I just went to the scene and I was like, he's not wearing a black tee, and then I was just like, oh, that black spot is his shoulder, just in a black t-shirt. So you're right, I got you now. Also, the gauze is just more like looks like it's just laid on top of him with like some red food coloring dropped on top of it. Anyway, the movie, it's like you want to see new directors kind of get to shoot their shot on these big things because like if you didn't do that, then we wouldn't have gotten things like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or any of those, where. But at the same time, it's just a heartbreaker when you're like, yeah, like the production value that went into this seems like it was pretty great. The problem was, I think, and they obviously sold somebody hard on this being the next Lord of the Rings. Like, because they got enough funding to do these huge battle scenes and to get these big name actors. But even like a lot of the battles do kind of come across kind of like how the final battle in The Hobbit does, where Guillermo del Toro backed out at the last second, and then Peter Jackson shows up on set, and they're filming the final battle, and he's like, "Can I have some time?" And they're like, "Nope." And he's like, "Okay, just keep fighting. I guess I'll figure out what's going on later. Like I'll fit it in at a later point. Just like because we can't come back out here to film this fight, and we need a giant battle. So do your best." So it's like very disjointed, and whereas you get like you see like okay, this is a nerd example. You know how I feel about nerds, but this is a nerdy example. Like even when it comes to the tactics of the soldiers versus the Krug, like you see in like Lord of the Rings, where when Peter Jackson was able to very carefully plan out the battles, like it's all very tactical, and everybody does what they would do in a real like medieval battle situation, right? Where they're like, no, we have a fortress. We're going to stay in here and just retreat further into the fortress as long as we can. We're not going to come out and fight you if we can avoid it. Versus here, it's like, oh, we're at the top of a slippery, muddy hill. Charge! Send in the ninjas.
Oh my gosh. They have the absolute high ground, and they're like, yeah, let's just run down the hill.
Yeah.
I could not believe that. I was like, they picked a great spot to defend. They just charged down the muddy hill. Man.
And then you get guys like the white general of all the generals, right? Where it's like, did you guys just... It's like they did hair and makeup for him, and they're like, okay, hair and makeup people, here's what we're doing. We're going for kind of like a Viking, Scandinavian, like Norwegian vibe, right? And then they finished his hair and makeup, and then they came in and be like, stop everything. We're doing away with that. Now we're just going regular people. And then he's just sitting there with his like long hair and long beard, and he's like,
yeah,
what do you mean you're not doing that anymore? I'm stuck in like 80 layers of fake beard here.
I really enjoyed. So some of the peasants get captured and taken prisoner in like the Krug whatever hive, including the brother-in-law. There's one point. This has to be just in the extended edition, but like the brother-in-law is there. There's another lady. She's like, my parents died in the raid, and he's like, my parents died too. We could take care of one another. You're like, hold on.
Did you also say
propositioning this woman?
Did you? Because I turned to Tiffany. I was like, we should probably bone later.
Yeah. I was like, right? You picking up this woman in the dungeon? Like, hold on. It's like, we're both adult orphans. Should we seal this deal or what? We're doing this, right?
To be fair, there is a whole game about picking up girls while in a dungeon. All right.
What? Excuse me.
What
are you saying to me?
It's a video game, and this movie
Dungeon Siege Tale?
No, it's a different franchise, but it is. It's like the
Picking
game
up
is
a
titled
bar wench.
Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? I think, but I think it's also where your sword is a girl.
What?
And so you flirt with your sword whilst clearing the dungeon. You understand what I'm saying to you, Cody?
I guess.
You picking this up?
So.
You getting all this?
No.
I'm scanning through the movie trying to figure out if he tries to pick up this chick in the theatrical version. So far everything that I've looked up has been in the theatrical. So I'm like, I don't know what 40 minutes they left it, unless it's all just like double the length battle scenes. Right?
How about here's a good one. Remember when all right, you have two powerful wizards, they're gonna fight. How would you have them fight in an ideal scenario? Two magic wielders, the last two magic wielders, they're gonna face off. What do you think their fight's gonna be?
Well, like
Whatever you're thinking, it's wrong, because what it is, several swords floating in the air, clashing. That's how they fight. They both use their minds to control swords that fight each other.
I can confirm
That's
he
pretty
does
good.
try to pick her up in the theatrical edition.
Nice.
It's like, we should take care of each other sexually.
Ray Liotta does a really awesome for the final fight scene. So it's Ray Liotta, who is a powerful magic wielder, versus Jason Statham, who has boomerang and kicks.
But Cody, I'll remind you, he is
Ray Liotta.
the king, so his blood, it's in his blood.
But Ray Liotta, he does like a Matrix float kick. Like he floats down from the balcony and he's got the big flowy cloak. I'm like, this is either Matrix or you're in a Blade movie. Like that Ray Liotta looks like a villain from Blade, and I couldn't have been happier with how that fight scene went.
What about when he slaps the ground and floats straight up on his back?
Yeah. That was... Oh, and then he puts Jason Statham in a tornado of books.
Yeah, and then shackles him with the books. Because Cody, knowledge beats being the king with a machete.
Knowledge
That's what we
beats heel kicks. Why does... my final note. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's over. Because they kill the villain, and he's like, "Hey, girl, I love you," and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, this is the director. We went through so much trouble to get to this point, and it's just like credits. UA Ball, we did it. I couldn't. And you think of when you think of Lord of the Rings knockoffs. Lord of the Rings has a famously ridiculous number of endings. Like there's a whole 40 minutes of like just the movies wrapping up for this character, for that character, for these characters once again, which I'm not complaining. But I'm just saying it's nice to have the resolution of like, oh, Frodo woke up and he's okay, and look, his friends are here. This is great. Like Aragorn's being crowned. This is so great. We're sending off Bilbo. It's like all these things like, oh, we get to sit in the peace that we've achieved.
Tie off all the bows,
And in this one, it's really just done. We're done. In and out. Quick 2 hour, 40 minutes. Let me tell you if this blows your mind. I have some fun facts. I don't know if you looked at the fun fact for this one.
Not very much.
My favorite fun fact, there is a third cut of this movie. There is an even extended cut that was never released.
What?
But it is 20 minutes longer. There's a full 3 hour version of this movie that no one has got to see.
I mean, that's an extended Lord of the Rings movie right there.
I have a bonkers fun fact, one that, I mean, come on, you'll never... Okay. Kevin Smith and Juliette Lewis were filming the movie Catch and Release on an adjoining set. So they came to visit the set. Burt Reynolds said he saw them steal 2 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts. No one in the cast cared, though, because they all preferred Dunkin' Donuts.
All right, let me jump off the bench here, Cody. Let me tell you something about dunks, all right? Let me tell you something about donkeys, all right? Donkeys got terrible donuts, all right? Nobody likes Dunks donuts, all right? If you say, oh, I love myself a good little Dunks donuts, all right? I go there, I get myself some donkeys, I get the donuts, you're a psychopath. If you're picking Dunks over Krispy Kreme, you don't know what you're doing with your life, all right?
That would
Burt
be like...
Reynolds is out here defending the Krispy Kreme with his life, and I respect him for that. Although he did let Kevin Smith, a short, fat man, steal 2 boxes.
It would be like... I was like, well, yeah, we had 5 guys brought in, but we don't care because everyone here, diehard Burger King people. You're like, not that there's anything wrong with Burger, but those are different tiers of products in my mind.
Yeah.
In my brain. The script took over a year. Doug Taylor rewrote 80% of the script because the original story was considered too similar to Lord of the Rings. So this is the script after they tried to make it less like Lord of the Rings. In case you're wondering.
Yeah.
In case you're curious about that.
They should have just gone all the way, right? They should have just gone hard
Yeah.
with
I agree.
copying. Because, like I said, there's copies of Lord of the Rings and they're bad. Like this could have been the good version, where it's like, oh my gosh, we nailed it. We made our own Lord of the Rings. We've done it. We're heroes, you know. But instead, no, you failed. I also looked up earlier, just to check. Ron Perlman in this movie. Nowadays, that doesn't sound like such a big deal. I'll remind you, this is he did this movie in between Hellboy 1 and 2.
Hellboy 1 and 2.
So when he was like peak famous, right? Like
Yeah,
everyone knew
yeah.
Ron Perlman was. He was a superhero. Not only that, like he was doing tons of like voices and like all kinds of shows, and like everyone at least knew his voice, even if you didn't know his face.
Right.
Also, Cody, I have one more point that I just want to throw in
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Hit me.
Matthew Lillard took the 11th and 12th legions, and that's 2/3 of the army. Where are the other 10 legions? All right? If the 11th and 12th are 2/3 of your army, they're not the 11th and 12th. They're the 2nd and 3rd. All right? That's what they are.
So many questions. I have so many questions about that because you said it was 2/3 of the army, right?
Right.
So then my thing was like, okay, but then they get most of those troops back when the troops realize Burt Reynolds is still alive. So why was it so hard to fight the Krug? I don't know, man.
Because the Krug outnumbered them. And Cody, Matthew Lillard had his guard. They're human. Those 4 dudes are human. Also, those 4 guys hated him, right? Why did they stay with him?
I don't know, man. It's wild out here. It is. Here's one. I think just 2 more. 2 more little factoids for you. First off, so the first public cut of the movie was completed 8 hours before they had to screen it. So they literally finished the cut. Uwe Ball flew the movie from Vancouver to LA to premiere.
That's a real Michael Bay move right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And finally, this one I'm going to need your help on. Burt Reynolds fell over whilst trying to open a froob on set.
What's a froob?
Tyler, I need you to tell me what a froob is. I saw that fact. I was like, he fell over. I was like, oh, probably while getting on his horse. Or it was like, then they said froob. And I was like, what's a froob? And how do you get it open? F-R-U-B-E. Is it like a medieval... Is that a medieval technology of some sort?
Froob is...
Is it Fruby? Frube.
Hold on now. A
Please tell me. I copied and pasted. This isn't like a spelling error on my part. I copied and pasted this from somewhere else.
Cody, I'm gonna just send you an image of when you look up a froob. Is
that a fruit?
Who makes Go-Gurt? That's the real question here.
Is that a frozen yogurt tube? Is it froob? Is that what you?
It's exactly what it is.
No, what? Froobs. It's by Yoplait. Doesn't Yoplait make Go-Gurt? No.
That's what I was just wondering.
The Trix yogurt stuff.
Okay, now we gotta find out who makes
that
Go-Gurt.
Can't be it. You're telling me. Hold on. You're telling me like a 70-year-old Burt Reynolds was eating yogurt tubes?
Yes. And why would he fall over? Okay, Yoplait does make Go-Gurt. Can't confirm.
Wait. This isn't what a froob is, though, right? This can't be it.
Cody, I tell you,
is this what they were talking about?
This is what comes up, man. Froob is froob yogurt. My children love these froob yogurts, especially tea. Outside the U.S., Go-Gurt is sold as Yoplait tubes. In Canada, as froobs. So it's Canadian Go-Gurt. That's what it is.
Oh, and they must have shot in Vancouver then.
Boom.
I mentioned.
That's what this movie is.
Froob.
It's Canadian. Okay.
So is it froob or frooby?
Probably Froobe. It's because it's French.
In Vancouver.
Look, all I know is in Canada, everything's supposed to be in English and French, right? So just make everything in French. Here's the thing. This movie is the Canadian Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. That's true.
Lord of the Rings shot almost entirely in New Zealand. Beautiful, like ancient looking art, scenery and like these huge sweeping vistas and beauty all around. And then Canada, it's pretty, but it's really not the same. You know what I'm saying?
You know, no, it is. I don't know.
Like one looks
Yeah,
like
but
a
can you
primeval
find a
rodent.
moose in New Zealand?
Maybe.
That's what I thought.
I don't know.
That is what I thought, sir.
Like this movie,
Oh,
I still think it is one of all the movies we watched. This is like peak. This could have been great. Like this could have been a
So-
game changer.
I saw the budget somewhere. Can you confirm it was like 13 million or something?
Oh,
like that?
budget I saw was 60.
60
Now,
million?
You want to hazard a
I
guess
saw
at what they
13 and
made.
I was like, that is insane. That is crazy.
But Cody,
so
do you
60 million, I guess. 60 million hurts because it's like this movie. You can make a good looking movie for 60 million. You know.
You want to
you play
hazard
your
it?
cards right.
I'll double check. I'll get a second opinion from Wikipedia. They always get the good.
I
60
mean,
million.
Did we talk about how we talked about how hard it was to find this movie? We could literally only find it on YouTube.
Which it is readily available
Like
in multiple places on YouTube.
A bootleg YouTube though. Like I couldn't buy it from YouTube
Yeah, but here's the thing.
or anything.
It's a high quality upload that normally, like, if the company that owns the rights to In the Name of the King even still existed and had they must still exist, because if they didn't exist, some random here's the thing, Cody, even if a creator has come out and said, I fully do not care if people upload my thing on YouTube, random scumbag lawyers will hunt down people who just upload it on YouTube.
Right.
So this movie is so far down on everyone's radar, it's not even getting picked up by these guys. So what happened? They made 3 of these. The second one stars Dolph Lundgren, and the third one like Dominic Purcell or whatever. You would recognize him if you saw him. Like he's another.
Oh, the
generic
guy
white
from Inglourious Bastards, the
maybe
German dude or Austrian dude,
maybe
the brown hair.
no, he's bald. He's
Oh.
like he's like if you mix Vin Diesel and Jason Statham, he's what you get. Cody, do you want to
Gotcha.
hazard a guess at how much the movie made? I'll give you a hint. It's the number you
it
thought was the budget.
13 million.
13 million.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
It's one of the biggest flops, right? Like that's one of the biggest flops we've watched.
That's pretty. I mean, 50 million in the whole, not even counting your advertising budget and all that. Yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah, I wonder how much these actors made for this. Like, I really do.
Here's what I want to look up. All right, what movie? This movie came out 2007, right?
Yep.
So here's what it won several Razzies. Like
Oh
just
yeah.
wholeheartedly, it swept the Razzies, Cody. All right, here's what I'm looking.
In the Name of the King 2, Two Worlds. Awful title. You can't have. In the Name of the King 2, Two Worlds. That's the title of the next movie.
All right, I'm looking up what one.
Not In the Name of the King, Two Worlds. Or in the name of. It's 2-2. The title is 2-2.
Cody, do you want to hazard a guess at what won Best Picture at the Oscars this year?
That year?
Mhm.
2007? Ooh, I'm not going to know that.
Cody, I'll give you a
I don't
hint.
know.
It's based right here where I live.
Oh, Is it Ben Affleck movie? Matt Damon movie?
Yes, sir.
Oh, but which one though?
I think both of those things, right? Are they both
It's
in it?
not Gone Girl's too late.
No. Maybe I told you. wrong.
The one from the beginning of their career is too early. Gosh, what did win? Not
It
Crash.
is them.
That's too
Yes,
early.
they are both in it.
I can't. I'm
believe.
drawing a blank. Oh. No, it's not The Town. That's
No, just Matt
Damon
Damon's in
Oscar
it.
for-
Ben Affleck is in it.
What is
in
it?
It's The Departed, Cody.
The Departed. Oh yeah, that's a good one.
The Departed. So it came
Oh,
out.
hold up.
Pan's
The guy
Labyrinth
in
also
the
came
name
out this year.
In the Name of the King 3. Oh no, that's a different guy. All right, sorry. Carry on.
Pan's Labyrinth won like cinematography. So this movie came out against So Ray Liotta, here's my thing. Is there a possibility that Ray Liotta turned down a role in The Departed
Stop.
to be in this film?
I mean, The Departed famously has every actor connected to Boston in it. Because, like, not everyone, but, it's like Marky Mark, Alec Baldwin, all those people have Massachusetts ties.
Which
plus
Ray Liotta?
Matt
from
Damon.
New Jersey, from Newark, New Jersey.
There you go.
So, not from Boston. Not from Mass. He is, in fact, not a masshole. Which is a fun thing to call people from Massachusetts. And I'll tell you right now, to all of those listeners out there, Cody, no one's going to fight you on that term. Like, you'd think they'd be like, what'd you call me? No, they're fine with it. I've yet to meet someone that's not like, yeah, that's fine. It's just like, it's not like this. If this movie had like lived up to half of what I think they hoped it would be, it would have been on these lists. I don't know if it would have won because I mean it's like Pan's Labyrinth, The Departed, Blood Diamond, like great movies came out that year.
Yeah.
But it could have been up there, and it just didn't. You know what I mean?
Tyler, let me tell you. Is there much else to talk about, or are you ready to slap a rating on this guy?
Dead Man's Chest also came out that year, Cody. Superman Returns. Cody, I mean, is there anything else? The only that was my last note was about the Legions.
I can't. The Legions?
He took 2/3 of the army.
11 and 12.
The 11th and 12th.
Yeah, no, that math didn't add up. And that's okay. They weren't good at math back then.
Oh, I did have one note about this director's cut. I feel like this director's cut, which you saying there's a longer version, blows this out of the water. But I really felt like this was them saying like, okay, we stitched together everything you filmed and we put effects to it. Review it, make sure you don't want to do any reshoots before we start our final edit. And then he said, cool, got it, release the movie. That's what it sounds like happened. But then you said they were like editing it 8 hours before, so that blows that out of the water. They tried their hardest. It's so many people trying their hardest and just, not doing it,
Sometimes, your best is not enough. I'm so torn on how to rate this thing. I don't even... I'm at a loss.
Just do it.
I can't figure out what to rate it because it was truly a bad movie. I don't know that we have ever in the history of the podcast given an F out to anything.
We have.
We have? I got an F.
I think I gave her an F.
Well, I always bottom out at like a D or D minus because I'm like, nothing we've seen has succeeded so awful, failed to succeed so awfully that I would just say it was a straight failure. But
this movie was a objective failure, and it was like it swung for the fences and missed so hard. Yeah, that's what's most disappointing about it. It's like someone who wrote it's like you're a teacher and somebody wrote a paper, and it's like you're like, oh my gosh, you like went out and basically like discovered new theories, but I have to give you a terrible grade because you didn't spell a single word correctly.
Right.
So it's like
I don't know. What would you rate it? What would you give it? I have given out an F, by the way.
What did you give an F?
And I'm sad to say it was a Tyler's Trash movie.
I mean, I would expect it to be a Tyler's Trash. What was it though?
Yu-Gi-Oh.
You gave Yu-Gi-Oh an F?
Yeah, dude. That thing was
Cody, I'm gonna say this. This movie. What did I give Yu-Gi-Oh?
It was a piece of garbage.
Cody, this movie, Yu-Gi-Oh is better than this movie.
I don't know if that's true. I really don't know if that's true.
Yu-Gi-Oh is like they're like, this is the storyline. It all makes sense in the world. There's a clear way we go from this scene to this scene. But this movie, it's like we're here. Now we're here.
Hear me out. But No, hear me out. Because there are beats in this movie where I'm like, you know what? I could see this totally working.
Yeah.
You know, like there are times where like I see the motivations are fine. You know, like the king fighting for the power and the guy. You know, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm so confused about this movie because at times I was watching it, I'm like, this is laughably silly because of the dialogue and delivery. And there's other times where I'm like, you know what? They're not doing too bad. You know, they're doing what they can. But like, would I ever want to see this movie again? No, man. I would watch a 10-minute supercut of like the kicks and the boomerangs and like Ray Liotta saying things, you know, like, but I couldn't like ever. I don't know, man.
I'll tell you what this movie is. Okay. So I've given this award to other movies, right? Mm-hmm. This is a perfect. If you and your friends are having a bad movie night and it's your turn to bring a bad movie, yeah, this movie will win you whatever contest you guys are having.
Yeah.
This is a great bad movie. Like, you guys want to sit there and pretend like you're Mystery Science Theater 3000? Oh, this is perfect. Because it's not like a terrible movie that they knew was terrible. This is Burt Reynolds going for it as a high fantasy king. And it's like, you're saying everything right, but I'm looking at Burt Reynolds here, man. Like, I'm looking at Burt Reynolds talking about this, how you have to use seaweed. The seaweed comes in and nourishes the thing. And I'm thinking, if the seaweed washed over your farm is dead. Here's why, Cody. It is now covered in salt water. And it's salted the ground. You can't grow stuff in there. Maybe can you remove the salt from
You can grow seaweed in salt water.
Seaweed. There you go.
I know that.
That's what they grow there.
Oh, Tyler, I think I have a new rating. Well, you're right. This is a fantastic bad movie. If it's late at night, you're getting slap happy. You just need to, you know. All right. This is my first time giving this rating to a movie, this specific letter grade. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is an F+. Almost got in the D's. That's where we're at. You know, they tried hard. I do feel like maybe the theatrical might be a little tighter where it's like, hey, this is still awful, but it doesn't take 3 hours, you know?
Yeah.
So it's still like a little more digestible. I'll give it an F+ with the caveat that is the director's cut.
Yeah, I mean, the versions I've seen before have always been the theatrical, and I do remember it being a lot tighter.
Yeah.
But like cutting this, like I can't think of anything you cut out of this and it be coherent in any way. Like it's incoherent as it is. I think.
Well, I mean, you could cut down some of the storylines, like, well, not that they do, like the brother-in-law storyline.
Yeah.
You know, you can cut 2 minutes out for him, and there's like 4 times they try to break out of the prison with the Krug, and it never works until the last time does it work. And
I think having
Matthew Lillard's role could be reduced a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Having scanned through the thing, it does look like they just cut all the fights down by like half, you know? Like the fights are
Which makes sense because the fights aren't great. I mean, except for when there's boomerangs or kicks, like nothing. I mean, heaven forbid they remove the slingshots or the catapulting of Krug. Those parts I want in, but the rest of the fighting for me is like, this is, you know.
I'll do. You know what, Cody? I'll join you. I'll join you on the F+ train, and I'll give a very specific reason why. This is what won me over. If you pay attention, and this might only be in the extended edition, the amount of times they do a shot and then mirror that shot and play it again drove me nuts. Or they will do a shot of like them panning over and they'll be like, look at all these soldiers to the left and look at all these soldiers to the right. And it's like, that's the same shot that you just mirrored. So that's the tip. That's the straw that broke the camel's back right there, Cody. That's what gives it that F+.
It makes me so happy when we put the same rating on a movie. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, you know, what a pleasure.
Cody, some of my favorite podcasts are when we do the Tyler's Trash and we both just rip into the movie because they are. Originally we started it and it was supposed to be like only the movies that I'm like, I'll defend this movie. But really it's become these are movies I just need someone else to watch, because it's like kind of like you with your indie movies where no one's watching this movie and I need
Right.
someone to know about it.
Yep.
I need you to know that
hear
I've
ya.
seen this movie multiple times before this. And I was like, that's cool. Because it is like, you're a kid, you like Lord of the Rings. There's nothing
Oh,
but
I mean,
Lord of the Rings.
If
This
I
is
saw
cool.
this when I was 7, I'd be like, this is as good as Lord of the Rings. Like,
Oh yeah, it's
'cause
awesome.
it's the same thing.
I never watched the other ones though, so that's tells
I mean,
really
you think
all
about the
need to
movies
know.
I watched as a kid, it was like Small Soldiers,
Even small stuff.
Mortal Kombat, and those are all, great films where you're like, cool, this is great.
Yeah. This is very
Cool
similar
stuff's
to
happening.
Small Soldiers, where it's like they went for it and they nailed everything they tried to do, but just like they needed to do 10% better across the board for it to be an
Yeah.
acceptable movie. All right,
The
Cody,
amount-
are you ready to do the thing before we close out
yeah,
completely?
yeah.
To
I'm super ready.
to see your next fate. All right, here we go. Ready? Do the
The
thing.
thing.
RoboCop.
RoboCop?
RoboCop.
The RoboCop we've already watched?
Cody, no. If you'll remember,
There's another RoboCop?
there's one, maybe
Oh.
two movies we have on
the
both of
the
our.
Paul Bettany RoboCop?
Yes, sir.
Oh no.
2014's
Let's do it.
RoboCop.
2014's RoboCop.
A movie-
All right.
That I'll say right now, just in case my mind changes, I loved when it came out. I thought it was so cool. So we'll see
Nice.
how I feel about it now.
Nice. Wow. I'm so glad we get to do both RoboCops in the same calendar year. It's great.
I was hoping
Fates
that they
have
would come
spoken.
up at the same time.
Back to back. Oh man, that would have been great. Wow. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking this journey with me. And thank you, listeners. You can share us and follow us wherever you find your podcasts. You can yell at us on social media at Opinion Havers. Hey, if there's a movie you want us to review, you just hit us up. We'll go for it. We'll add it to the docket. Behold our memes. And until next time, watch movies.
And have opinions.
Can you believe that Ray Liotta had one amazing performance and then has only done stuff like this?
He's a bad actor, right?
And then he died. I mean, think about that. Tyler, imagine the best thing you do in your whole life happening right now. And that's it.
I think Ray Liotta just walked onto set on those. I don't think he was cast.
Here's what I think it is. I honestly, I don't think it matters if you're a good actor or not. Martin Scorsese, boom, kingmaker. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
He doesn't let anyone do a bad performance in his movies.
Yui Bowl only lets bad performances.